Hello, welcome to my next lesson. Today we are going to learn how to do a teleportation script. So how to move a player from one area of the world to another area using a trigger gizmo. So this is a super simple script, so we're just going to get right into it. You need a trigger gizmo, which is that clear green cube here. And then I use an object as a reference just so I know where that trigger gizmo is, because as soon as we go into play mode, that trigger gizmo goes invisible. And then we also need a spawn point because we need to be able to spawn to a location. So we have a spawn point, a trigger gizmo, and a script gizmo. So we're going to go ahead and open up our script gizmo. We're going to make this a little bit smaller and more accessible. All right. So first and foremost, you want to name your script. So on the very top, you want to click on that top section, and we're going to name this, we're going to name it Telly for teleport for short. All right. All right, so when world is started, we do not want this to function when the world is started. We only want it to function when a player passes through that trigger gizmo down there. So we can go ahead and delete that. All right, so to get it started, we're going to start under the very first column, which is all the events. So if you hover over it, it says events there. We're going to go down and look for player events because this is a player activation on that trigger. So we look for when trigger is entered by player. So we're going to drag that over and drop it into our big box here. So now it populated when trigger is entered by player, which is great, but we need it to function. So we need the player to spawn to that spawn point when they enter this trigger. So that is a form of movement. So we're going to go to the second tab where we have motion. So right there we go. And then we're going to go down to player motion because we are functioning a player motion moving from one point to another. We are going to respawn player because we wanted the player to respawn to that spawn point. And we're going to drag that over there. So make sure you drag it underneath here. So it's going to have that overhang right here and it sits right underneath this event. So now it says when trigger is entered by player, respawn blank player to self. So we need to assign the player in this little slot right here. So all you have to do is highlight over player, hold down on the top trigger button, see how it forms on my hand, and then you can just drop it right in. So there we go. When triggered is entered by player, respawn player to self. Well, if that means we enter in that trigger, we respawn that player back to that player. Well, that don't make sense because we need it to spawn over to that spawn point. So we need to create a variable for that spawn point. So we're going to go all the way to the right side under variables. It's the hashtag # icon. We're going to go to variables, click new variable because we're creating a very new variable. We have to name it. So I like to use abbreviations for these just to keep it short and simple if you want to type it out, but I definitely recommend writing something here that you have a quick reference to knowing what that variable is going to be used for. So I put SP for spawn point, the type. So spawn point, this is a physical object. So we need to change this to an object. All right, so we got SP for spawn point, type is object, and then we leave list alone because we're not going to work with that. And then we're going to hit confirm. And then this populates this little blue pill with SP on there. We're going to fill this little SP pill to replace it with self. So all you have to do is hover over it, hold on the top trigger button, and then it's going to populate in your hand, and then you're just going to drop it into self. There we go. So when trigger is entered by player, respawn player to the spawn point. And we got no errors, so that is good. So this shows that the script is valid and there are no errors. That is it. That's all we need for this script, so we can go ahead and close this. Now what we need to do is we need to attach this script to something in this world. So since we are activating this trigger, and the whole script point was when player enters trigger, we need to go to the trigger and open up its properties panel. All right, so now we got the properties panel open. We have trigger. Right on the very bottom here, it says attach script, and there's a little drop down. We're going to click this, and we're going to look for the script that we just made. I named it Telly. And there we go. We attach the script to this trigger. And the spawn point variable is now empty. So we need to assign that spawn point to this empty space because we need to be able to connect that spawn point with this trigger that has the script on it. If we do not assign this empty spot, there is nothing referencing that spawn point. So we need to connect that spawn point to this trigger. So we're going to go over to the spawn point. We're going to open up the properties panel for this spawn point. All right, and then on the very bottom, there's that blue pill. You can actually hold down on the top trigger button, and it's going to spawn in your hand like this. And you're just going to go over and drop it in that empty slot. And you'll notice there's this blue connection line. So it's showing that this spawn point is now connected to this script line on the trigger gizmo. So this is all connecting together. So that is it. So let's go test it out. We're going to close these, and then we're going to go into play mode. All right, so see how we don't see the trigger gizmo? That's why I put this reference of the object here, just so we know where the trigger gizmo is. We're going to walk through, and woohoo! Look at that. We are moved over to where we have our spawn point placed in the world. So at any point, you want to move your spawn point to a different area. It don't matter. You will spawn wherever that spawn point you place in the world. All right, so that is it. That is the simple concept of teleportation using a trigger gizmo and a spawn point. Thank you for stopping.